Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. After a wild few weeks of NFL action, I am back today to bring you all Season 2, Episode 14, where we will break it all down and dive into this year's playoffs ahead of Super Bowl 56. To kick us off today, starting with two teams from the NFC West, the Niners and the Seahawks, I want to start with San Francisco. Big Cock Brock, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, all those guys who have now gone on to win 10 straight games. They have been dominant ever since they went out and got a trade with the Carolina Panthers to get star running back Christian McCaffrey. He's been dominant, scoring a touchdown in what I believe is every game he has played for the Niners so far. Brock Purdy is absolutely dealing. He was their third string quarterback coming into this season. Mr. Irrelevant from the draft. And guess what? He is now 5-0 as a starter due to the pure mastermind that Kyle Shanahan has become and is. And in my opinion, there's without a doubt that Kyle Shanahan is the best coach in the entire National Football League. This team, this San Francisco team, they had their starting quarterback, Trey Lance, get hurt early in the season, and they turned to their guy, Jimmy G, who has led them to a Super Bowl before, but they decided to bench, to take away some of his money, to give him an incentive-based contract. He came in, started leading the team on a little win streak, got injured. And all of a sudden, this character, that Deebo Samuel, that the offensive lineman, that Trent Williams have all this faith in, this person, Big Cock Brock, he comes in and is leading one of the scariest teams in the whole NFL, arguably ever weapons-wise. It does not matter. Brock Purdy could go out and throw 4 interceptions this weekend. San Francisco offense could have 5 turnovers total. They could still beat this Seahawks team. They could beat majority of teams by 17 points. McCaffrey, Deebo, Kittle, Trent Williams, Elijah Mitchell is their running back too. They're stacked on offense, and that's not even bringing up the defensive side of the ball, which they have absolute playmakers on. They're loaded. This is a ridiculously scary team, and Shanahan has, without a doubt, become the best coach in the league in my eyes. There's no longer a way you can ignore it. And going into this year's playoffs, with Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts, him being injured now the last few weeks, them having a bye week, but that giving Jalen Hurts more time off, everybody thinks this could be beneficial. I truly believe all this time off for Jalen Hurts could be a burden. San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, this is a mastermind. This is a world-class organization who goes out and wins championships, wins playoff games, knows mindsets. And they know that Jalen Hurts, he's going to come out for that first quarter and a half, first half. He's going to come out and not look entirely like himself. You don't after having 5 weeks off of football, 35 days. You can't do that after not playing for a month. You're not going to come back and immediately be MVP level. Yes, they have Gardner Minshew. Yes, we saw something with Philly a few years ago, Nick Foles. We're never going to see that again, period. No way. I love Gardner Minshew. But they cannot go out and beat this talented San Francisco team. And Minnesota, overall, the next high up team in the NFC. Minnesota overall is not a good team. They show their true colors. They showed it against the Cowboys. They showed it against the Packers. And they are a team with over 12 wins with a negative point differential. We'll get to that later in this show. But that is awful. The 49ers have to be my pick to go on to win the NFC this year, regardless of who the quarterback is. You're telling me Dallas is going to go stop them? You're telling me Brady going to San Francisco Brady, I think he'll win one. He's not going to go on a run. Not with this team. Not against San Francisco. If a game gets played in San Francisco, that's game, set, match. And the only game San Francisco would have to leave for is the NFC Championship. The NFC is not set up, is not built tough enough to take on this 49ers team. And going to the other team I want to talk about, Geno Smith and the Seahawks. They've inspired me this season. They've inspired everybody. The Tyler Lockett quote dating back to 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago, where he said, "It's amazing what we can accomplish when nobody cares who gets the credit." They're just having fun in the locker room. All the media, everybody's saying that Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, DK, everybody, they got to be stressed out this week. They're going to San Francisco. They're playing the big bad Wolves. Well, the video we see yesterday, they're all laughing. Geno Smith, Gritty's out in the locker room. Pete Carroll comes riding in out of nowhere on a scooter. They're just having a good time. And I love what I saw from the Seahawks. You can go back and watch the first episode of Season 2 from this year. If you go watch that episode, you're going to hear me say, the Falcons and the Seahawks, these are the two teams that are tanking this year. These are the two teams that don't have a shot. The Falcons, they went all the way to Week 17 in playoff contention. The Seahawks, look where they're at now. They're in the playoffs, going to San Francisco. It's amazing what you can do when no one cares who gets the credit. The Seahawks, the Falcons, they all bought in with each other. They knew everybody was casting them out. Geno Smith, everybody wrote him off, but what did he say? He didn't write back. And without a doubt, in my eyes, yes, Christian McCaffrey makes a great case, but Geno Smith, he deserves the Comeback Player of the Decade award. He deserves the Comeback Player Ever award. To come back from everything, all the scrutiny, all the crap he's had to deal with, to lead this Seahawks team, to have over 4,200 passing yards this year. Geno Smith has been dealing. He deserves credit, and he deserves to be a starting quarterback in this league. So what, it's taken him some time. So he has learned behind so many guys, so many teams, and now he's with Pete Carroll, a veteran coach that knows how to use him, and they got to the playoffs. And how good for Geno, good for the Seahawks. It's just quite unlucky that they have to run into the 49ers, which, like I said, they are my pick to win the NFC this year. They're the best team, but this is going to be an electric game to watch this Saturday. 49ers at the Seahawks, kicking off Super Wildcard Weekend. We'll get to my bets, my picks for this weekend later in this episode. But without a doubt, you got to go San Francisco here. Now, moving on. Everybody knew it was coming. I couldn't sit here and hide and pretend like I don't have Aaron Rodgers' jersey hanging in the rafters behind me. The Packers and Aaron Rodgers, their season, they came to a close. And a quick recap on their year. They ended up 4-8 after 12 games. They had a win against the Cowboys. They started the season 3-1, beating Tampa. And the season looked bright despite the rookies. But after a trip to London, trip facing the Giants, the Packers, they rattled off 5 straight losses, including ones against Washington, ones against Detroit. After those 5 straight losses, you think they're putting it together. They get a win against Dallas. No, not putting it together. And we face the Tennessee Titans and the Philadelphia Eagles and lose those games. Now, after that Philadelphia game, I'm going to take everybody back to what I said. And Packers Nation, reporters, media, everybody was like, this can't happen. You can't do this. But sitting at 4-8, I sat here and said, we are not a playoff team. The Packers, they were never a playoff team this year. Straight up, period. They never were. And now, after this year, you still don't know what you have with Jordan Love. You had a month. The Packers, they needed to temporarily suspend the Rodgers era and spend a month with Jordan Love. That would have opened up a world of options for them. A world of options. But now the Packers, they are completely driving blind. After the loss to Philadelphia, everybody knew the season was over. Everybody knew, even if we would have beat Detroit this past weekend. So what? So you're going to go to San Francisco and get railed? This is Title Town. This is Green Bay Packers. Vince Lombardi is who the Super Bowl trophy is named after. We're not going for the playoffs. We're going to win the whole damn thing. The playoffs, there's no tipping your hat to that when you're a Green Bay Packer fan, when you're a Green Bay Packer player, when you're in that organization. That isn't anything. Now, instead of playing Jordan Love, which would have opened up a world of options, you would have known who he was. You could have potentially had a Favre to Rodgers type of transition with Rodgers to Love. This is the perfect time for it. This was around the age. Rodgers, we'll get to him here in a minute, but we don't know the future for him. But instead of playing Jordan Love, figuring out what you have, the Packers, they are now completely driving blind into this offseason, into next year, frankly. I cannot tell you one more thing about Jordan Love that I did not already know from the day he was drafted, from his scouting report. I can't tell you anything. You know what? I can tell you something. You know how resilient he is? Because that's all NFL coaches, that's all assistant coaches, GMs, anything can say good about Jordan Love. Oh, he's so resilient. Oh, he's resilient. He can stick around and, keep his head in the mud and just not say anything. That's not enough for me. And now we're sitting here stuck with Rodgers, not knowing what's going to happen, paying him $59 million, and we need a decision now going into the draft. You could pay an aging Rodgers $59 million and draft a wide receiver and a tight end and potentially be in the exact same position next year where the teams can't figure things out till December. I love Aaron Rodgers. When he walked off that field against the Detroit Lions, I was watching and I genuinely felt like a part of my childhood was walking off of that field. I grew up with him. He made me fall in love in football. And the last thing I want to do is see Rodgers go. But what I am saying is Rodgers, Gutekunst, the GM, LaFleur, everybody in this team, in this organization, they knew, all the fans, they knew this season was shot at 4-8. No 4-8 team goes on to win the Super Bowl, plain as that, period, exclamation point, never. That doesn't happen. Instead of sticking a fork in it, the Packers kept up their fight, which they built for next year, but they could have built and seen what Jordan Love is. Now, I will say this about Rodgers. He's got a problem. And I want to flash back to 4 years ago, our first year under Matt LaFleur. They lost to San Francisco in the NFC divisional game. And that's when the Packers, they were in a very similar situation like Minnesota is in this year. The Packers, they were in a situation, negative point differential, but they went and won 13 games, had the second overall seed, but they got blown out, I believe it was 37-10 against the 49ers in San Francisco. And after that game, Rodgers went on to say, man, if only we could get one of these at home. If only we could get one of these at home. And the very next year, they get just that. They get Tampa Bay in Green Bay, NFC Championship game. Rodgers has the opportunity. He actually has 3 opportunities. Brady throws 3 fourth-quarter picks. Never happens. He throws 3 fourth-quarter picks. Rodgers has 3 chances. Doesn't get it done, blowing away the NFC Championship. The following year, favorites again against San Francisco at home in Green Bay off a bye in the divisional round. They lost despite San Francisco not having a single offensive touchdown that entire game. This year, Week 18 favorites against Detroit at home, and we lost. With Rodgers beginning the fourth quarter, trying to throw an interception, but getting called back due to a penalty. And the end of the fourth quarter, throwing an interception to end the game. So 3 times at home now, he's had the opportunity to advance the Packers' season and has not gotten it done. Has fallen apart in the fourth quarter, and that is a big problem. I'm not saying I want Rodgers gone. I know Love is not the answer. But the fact that the Packers don't have an answer, the fact that they're driving blind, that Gutekunst the last 2 days has had meetings with Aaron Rodgers, and he gets up to the podium today for his press conference and says Rodgers is going to need some time, we don't know, right? He's going to step away. That's not okay. He needs to hurry up, make a decision, buy in or buy out. The Packers, they've been driving blind for too long, especially with a guy that we've got $59 million pledged to. He's got Christian Watson. He's got Romeo Doubs. Guys are developing. He's 39, almost 40 years old. Can't hang the team out to dry forever, and I know you lost your buddy Davante Adams. But the fact that we didn't go to Jordan Love a month and a half ago is ridiculous. He looked good against Philly. He looked decent. He had flashes of Aaron Rodgers in him, but we only saw 1 or 2 drives. We didn't know. We don't know anything about this kid. And we're about to go decide about picking up his 5th-year option? This is his 5th-year option year. We got to decide if we want to pay this kid more money or let him go. And we have no idea anything about him. Nothing. All the reporters in Green Bay, the coaches, we don't know a thing. I'll head on, jumping over to another team in the division, the Chicago Bears, who, you're going to see it with a smile on my face, have the worst overall record in the entire National Football League. They ended this year the worst overall team. They have the number 1 overall pick in this draft, and that's due to Houston simply being Houston. We used to say Cleveland's being Cleveland, and I think without a doubt it's Houston being Houston at this point. They gave up their first overall pick, 50 seconds left against the Indianapolis Colts to go win the game 32-31, and they lost. The number 1 pick they've held on to since week 10 of this season. They lost it to the Bears. Now they sit with the number 2 pick. The Bears, they could do anything in the world. They could go draft Bryce Young, trade Justin Fields, get a bunch of picks. They could trade their pick, get 2 first-rounders for that. So many things can happen. We could see Houston wasting a first-round draft pick purely because they won a game with 50 seconds left in this season. Chicago, I'll give them this. While I am so happy that they are the worst team in the whole National Football League, the entire league, while they did sell out this season, which is something that rarely works, they got out from underneath Ryan Pace, their old GM Ryan Pace, and it worked out. They sold out. They have the number 1 pick. And they could potentially go get some weapons for Justin Fields. They just need to, like I said, stop living in an absolute black and white world. They're living in a black and white football world when it's a digital football world. They're thinking defense wins championship. They did the right thing. They traded Roquan Smith during the year. That's something I was begging since before the season even started. But the Bears, they find themselves in an incredibly lucky position. And the Houston Texans, they fired Lovie Smith, as they should. I know he only had 1 season, but you can't go do that to an organization. They should have the number 1 overall pick. And Lovie Smith, he kind of screwed over the general manager. Moving on to a topic, NFC West absolutely shocked me this past week. When the season ended, it came out of the Los Angeles Rams, and head coach Sean McVay, which is he is thinking about taking time off or walking away from head coaching, which I think is absolutely absurd. The clock is ticking for one. They need to make a decision on this, which I think there will be a decision that comes soon. And the Rams and Sean McVay, they told their assistant coaches that they're free to explore other jobs. And this job, it could be as easy as handing it to defensive coach Raheem Morris, or defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, or they could look to a guy like Sean Payton, which I think fits this scheme perfectly, and he wants to get back into coaching. But McVay, for him to not return to his 7th season as a head coach is just crazy to me. He is 36 years old and is running away because he sold his soul for a Super Bowl and doesn't want to go through the few bad years with the team to get things okay again, like cap space and draft picks. It takes years to get those things turned around. They sold their souls on older players, veteran players, who could go out, win a Super Bowl, maybe 2, obviously not. But guys, they knew we're going to get injured after running that long of a season. Playing that many games really does take a toll on these players' bodies. But the rumors that are coming, what the agents are saying, the players, they really think Sean McVay is out. And potentially Matthew Stafford, even though Stafford a couple weeks ago he said he'd still be here. They're saying potentially Stafford could be out. And I think McVay may feel at times a bit underappreciated. And that's where this is coming from. Sean McVay, he changed the league. If we flash back to when he came in, we were still a very much defense wins championship league. We just saw the Denver Broncos with Von Miller winning Super Bowl MVP take down Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, who were 15-1, dominant offense, the MVP, Superman. Defense was still winning championships, but Sean McVay came in and changed things. With Jared Goff as his quarterback, with an underdeveloped team, he went and got to a Super Bowl with his flashy offense that tricked defenses. No matter who you were. McVay, he is underappreciated. He changed the entire trajectory of the Rams organization, which was failing. They were failing money-wise. They were failing fan-wise. In St. Louis, they didn't have a thing. They had to move to LA. And with McVay there, moving locations, he got them to 2 Super Bowls, won one of them, and got there with 2 different QBs. Not to mention that the stadium that the Rams went and got and built and paid for, that put them in debt. The Rams, they were betting on themselves to be good. They had to go sell beer and seats and sweets and hot dogs and all this stuff. They needed to make money and they needed to bring fans in. And Sean McVay is that guy that did it for the team. McVay, he has not gotten the credit he deserves. He's only 36 years old. He's an offensive mastermind that's changing this game along with Kyle Shanahan. And he may be fed up with it. This may be his way to make the organization, fans, people notice. This man, 36 years old, he chose coaching. He loves football. Coaching is his passion. You're going to say, he know what he got into. He says he wants more time with his family, but you know what you get into when you're coaching. For him to step away after only 6 seasons, I don't see that happening. And guess what? He's saying I could go do broadcasting. Still a lot of hours, big guy, and you're not getting paid as much money as coaching. As a top dog, he is a top dog in this National Football League. And everybody needs to start to see him that way, or we're going to lose the brilliant mind of Sean McVay in this league. Now, a mind that I think we could be losing soon, and this is my bold fire of the offseason. It's coming out of Washington, coming out of the Commanders, and Ron Rivera. My bold prediction is Ron Rivera, he is going to be fired this offseason. His 3 seasons with the Commanders so far, 7-9, 7-10, and then 8-1. They've had a stellar defense, dominant, great weapons on offense. decent offensive line, but repeatedly things have been mismanaged, mainly at the quarterback position by the head coach, by Ron Rivera. Now, the big problem for me this past year, I really believe Taylor Heinicke could have gotten this team to the playoffs. This is the same guy that Chase Young was rallying behind, that the whole offense, the whole defense, those special teams, the locker room, everybody loved Taylor Heinicke. That was their guy. And they all said they had faith in him. But with 2 games left in this year, all the playoffs on the line, all the hope, Taylor Heinicke, he had a bad game, and they chose to go and bench him for Carson Wentz. Despite all the fans, all the teammates, I talked to numerous Commanders fans, and Commanders teammates came out in support of Heinicke. Everybody wanted to see Heinicke out on that field, not Carson Wentz. This was Heinicke's team this year. And likely, we're going to have to wait to see what happens with Ron Rivera. Dan Snyder, we know he could be selling the team this offseason. He likely is selling the team. And if Dan Snyder would wait to fire Ron Rivera until the new owner comes in, the new owner would be on the hook for paying Ron Rivera whatever $20-30 million that he will be owed. So Dan Snyder will likely wait, and that could just save Ron Rivera's job for one more season. But he will be on the hot seat all throughout next year, and he deserves to be on a hot seat. He has made questionable decisions his entire time as a head coach while being gifted an extremely talented defense and great weapons on offense. That is inexcusable. Now going on to the last team before we get to the big playoff look ahead, I give you all my best bets for this upcoming playoff weekend. Big news that came out of Arizona and the Cardinals organization. Cliff Kingsbury and their GM, everybody decided to split ways. Arizona, they are in the hunt this upcoming year for a new head coach and a new general manager. And the reports are coming out. They were coming out earlier this morning and yesterday that Kyler, he will not put the work in. And all the things that Arizona was so scared about coming into this season, trying to put things into his contract clause and all that, him playing video games, those things came true. And it was time for Kingsbury. It was time for the general manager. It was time for those guys to go. Kingsbury, overall, he was 28-37 as a head coach. Only one winning season, which was last year. But if we all flash back to last year, they started off as the last undefeated team remaining, quickly fell apart, leading to a first-round exit in the playoffs. And if we go back even farther to when Cliff Kingsbury, he got this head coaching job, everybody thought he was not the guy for it. When he got hired, everybody was shocked. And largely, the hire was made due to appealing Kyler Murray, their number 1 overall pick that they thought was it. Yes, he's a talent, but Kyler Murray, he is a diva. And now, the general manager, their head coach, the guys that went and got Murray and signed him to this mega extension, they're gone and leaving this team with a diva quarterback who players have a problem with. They are going to have to get this sorted out soon, or they got to get Kyler Murray out of there. They now must first find a general manager to put this shit back together, put things back on track, and then hire a dominant offensive-powered head coach that will appeal to Kyler Murray but not play any games with him. And for one of the few examples that come to mind is Sean Payton, but that's about every team in the NFL wants Sean Payton at this point. Everybody wants Sean. Not everybody can have him. And I don't think Arizona would be the team that he'd go to. Yes, J.J. Watts got injuries. He had this and that. He was fed up. Come on, everybody. We know it's true. JJ's fed up. He was on bad teams his whole career. He kept getting injured just to go on and not even make the playoffs. It was time for him to retire. He knew it. Arizona had him. He was under deal for another year. And he didn't want to go through all the pandemonium that he was going to have to deal with Arizona finding a new head coach and a new general manager and having to deal with loud, noisy diva QB Kyler Murray. It's just not a setup for success. Flat out, period. Arizona has messed up, and the only way to right this ship is to get a guy who will put Kyler Murray in his place, get him to put the damn Xbox controller down, get off Call of Duty, start watching film, and get his act together, because it's got to happen. He's too good of a quarterback. They just signed him to a mega extension. There's no more excuses for him. In Arizona, they need to get on him now. They need to right this ship now. Now, getting on to the playoff look ahead before we get out of here with today's episode. Playoff look ahead, I'm going to give you guys all my favorite bets. Just give you all a quick breakdown for every game, what I think's going to happen, how it's going to go. And real quick preface to this. To me, I think it is so important the quarterbacks in the playoff. Every year, if you just take these teams, Seahawks and the 49ers, Chargers, let's take Chargers, Jaguars. Herbert, Lawrence. Who's better quarterback? We all just said Lawrence. We all just said Herbert. We all know it's Herbert. And that's why I'm picking the Chargers to win that game. Herbert is the better quarterback there. And a lot of times, if these games are close, it's going to come down to who's the better quarterback, plain and simple. These quarterbacks, they're game managers. They keep the team calm. If they're off, everything's going to be off. On defense, the time of possession will be screwed up. Nothing's going to get established on offense. Nothing will work. So when I'm going through these games, just think to yourself who these quarterbacks are. Think who the better one is. A lot of times that's who I'll be picking with. Starting it off, Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. I covered this earlier. It's so obvious here. You cannot not take the 49ers. And me, I got to take San Francisco. They are favored by 10 points. I got to take 10 points. It's in San Francisco. The amount of offensive weapons, McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, just the amount of offensive weapons. You cannot ignore how good this team is. And the Seahawks, they're just having fun. They're happy to be here. They bought into each other. But this is a team, you're not gonna be within 10 points on this 49ers team. We can say that, and I can say that confidently. Moving on to the next game on Saturday, the Los Angeles Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. For me, this is going to be a Chargers game. I've got to take the Chargers and Justin Herbert. He has not won a playoff game yet. This is the time to prove himself. Trevor Lawrence, he is still young. He's never even played in a play. He's got no idea what's coming to him. This is a grown man's league. Yes, it's in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, they got here based off defense. Trevor Lawrence, he has played okay, but I think the Chargers are the better team here, and I got to take Chargers, and then the line is Chargers minus 1.5. I flip back and forth between this one, but I'm just going to take Jags plus 1.5 for the hell of it. I think it's going to be an incredibly close game, 23-22 type of B, and that line will cover. If it does, I'm going to come back on here in a week and laugh hysterically. But moving on to the next game, the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. I got to take the Bills here. Miami, they have no Tua. It's in Buffalo. It's cold right now. Miami does not do good when it's below 40 degrees outside. Now, the line, it is favored Bills minus 13.5, and that is simply too many points for me. Miami, they are a good team. They got Tyreek Hill. They got Jalen Waddle. There may not be Tua, but you got to take Miami plus 13.5 there. Going to the next game, the New York Giants at the Minnesota Vikings. I got to take the Giants here. And a quick breakdown on the Minnesota Vikings. This is a team to me that is not built. They are the Minnesota frauds. If we take a look at some of these other 12-plus win teams, the Niners, Philadelphia, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, they all have plus 100 point differential. The Vikings, they're in the negative numbers. They're in a similar situation that the Packers were in a few years ago when they got railed against the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. You go up against a team that knows how to play you, which some teams like the Packers have given the Giants the recipe to beat the Vikings. You go up against a team like that, there's not much you can do. The Vikings, they've won so many games. They've won double-digit games this year by less than one score, winning it right at the end. They are the comeback kings, but it's not something that's going to take them far in the playoffs and never something that I can bet on. I've got to take Giants and Giants +3 here. Ravens at Bengals. Right before I hopped on to record this episode, some big news came out. Lamar Jackson, he is out for another week. I hate it for him. He is going on a contract year. This was a huge year for him. He needed to play all these games and lead the Ravens on a playoff run. And now everybody can just hope that Baltimore does the right thing and stands by Lamar Jackson and pays him his money like Dallas did with Dak. But with no Lamar Jackson, it's in Cincinnati. I've got to take the Bengals. They are loaded right now. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, all those boys, they know what they're doing. And honestly, Bengals, they're favored by 9.5, and I've been going back and forth with this nonstop. And I'm thinking, purely because this is an in-division game, I've got to take Ravens +9.5 here. 9.5 is a lot of points. To beat somebody by 10 in the playoffs, no matter who it is, it's not an easy feat, and not all these games are going to be big blowouts. So I've got Bengals and then Ravens +9.5. And the last game of the weekend, the Dallas Cowboys at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike McCarthy, he's going to Tampa, trying to get himself a playoff win, but I do not think it'll happen. Tom Brady, he has gotten himself another playoff game at home, and we know what that means. That means the Buccaneers are going to win this game, and they will win. They'll cover the +2.5. Bucks +2.5. Quick review of everything real quick. We've got 49ers money line, San Francisco -10. We got Chargers money line, but Jaguars +1.5. We've got Bills money line, but Miami +13.5. Giants money line, Giants +3. Bengals money line, but Ravens +9.5, and then Bucks money line and Bucks +2.5. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. I will be back on next Tuesday to recap everything that took place in Super Wildcard Weekend. Until then, peace.